What up, folks? You know what? Uh, while I'm thinking about it, let me go ahead and start downloading the old my live streams before they take them away from me. But we're gonna be reading this Dred Scott case this morning. I figured I can come on this. I'm already reading it, and as I'm reading it, I got things to say about damn near every line. So, or every passage. So I was like, you know what, man, I might as well make this interesting and read here on the live stream. So we'll give it a moment, let people show up. Let the folks show up here, man. We're gonna go really into this case. And you know what would really be good? What would really be good is my bad, I'm looking for this TikTok live studio. They keep changing how this website looks, man. Damn TikTok. But yeah, so we're just getting started, just coming in. Appreciate you. Probably just scrolling. We just getting started. Gonna get into a lot of this game and talk about all of this. TikTok studio. Where in the hell is the TikTok live studio? I swear, dude, TikTok be changing shit up. Here is. I can't even find my live streams. Oh, what up, Vance? I just looked down there, man. If you probably ain't never been in one of my live streams, man. Typically, I'm just getting started. I just press the button, so I'm just getting started. But typically, I'll cook for 3-4 hours, and typically I have about 40 to 80 people in here every time. So he said, "Shit, I've been on 10 of them." Oh, for real? I didn't even know. A lot of times I be cooking and going, nigga. I don't even be seeing I don't even be looking down and seeing the people that's joining in sometimes, man. I'm mad I missed it, man. I appreciate you joining in. Appreciate you joining up in here, man. Oh, that's what you gotta do. Yeah, they done changed the shit up. This morning, it ain't gonna be as explosive. I'm mostly gonna just be reading this case on Dred Scott. Now, I mean, it'll still be decently interesting because every passage I got something to say about this shit. But we'll give people a second to kind of show up. But I'm probably about to start cooking and then I'll go back into it as people show up. It is kind of early, but people are starting to get up. People are starting to wake up. All right, man. I'm going to start reading. I just wanted to pull up my live streams on my computer so that way I don't forget. I need to be uploading these. My YouTube fans are probably mad at me. It is what it is. But so where we left off was what's up, Renita G? Appreciate that. Appreciate the love. Hope you're having a good morning. So where we left off at last night was about the Dred Scott case. Now, we were going through newspaper clippings. We've gone through law dictionary definitions prior to 1860, like from the 1700s, and law dictionaries after 1860. What up, CR the Great? Appreciate that. Appreciate y'all coming in, man. We've gone through all that. I think you was in here too last night, CR. So we was, we still on the Dred Scott case. I do realize, in my opinion, this is the most important case that first puts things on the books to starts calling us Africans and taking us out of the capacity of being Indians, propagandistically, in a sense. it really didn't do anything but put on the books that, you know, what the sentiment was and the laws was toward Africans. It's the propaganda afterwards of everybody trying to make us be Africans, that puts us into that law, so to speak, or takes us out of jurisdiction of the court. Which, you know, sometimes you would think that would be a good thing, but you know, like your average sovereign citizen will sit there and tell you that you don't, the court ain't got jurisdiction over you. Well, that's not always a good thing, because if you have an issue, then now you can't sue because you don't have they don't have jurisdiction. You have to somehow get redress from that person that wronged you, your own self, somehow. And you still got to work within the frameworks of the law, of the current laws, because you can't just go and unalive somebody just because you know, whatever the case. So you know, you still have to abide by these laws, but at the same time, you don't have jurisdiction to go and get redress. So I don't know, you know, whether you want to be under the court system's, you know, a jurisdiction or not, that's up to you. I mean, you know, I'm gonna follow most laws. I will say most. I ain't gonna follow every law. I ain't gonna give a damn. But okay. So I'm gonna start up here with the case. We're gonna read through it. What's up, Earth? We're gonna read through it, and we're gonna talk about basically just read through the case specifically. So last night, like I was showing y'all. Now this is the actual. I guess this is more info from the case, more verbiage. So far, I've read just a little bit of it, but don't forget, you know, this is different from the actual transcript that was handwritten that we were actually going through from the actual National Archive records. So, Grand Rising. Appreciate that, Ronnie the G. Appreciate you so much. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate y'all coming in here. Thanks for the gifts. Thank you so much. And we're gonna get into this. But yeah, this is different from now see, when I read something like this, to me, this is a lot more official than what I'm about to read. But I'm assuming they must have gotten their records, because it's on a it's not on a government site, but it's on a a law website, I guess, you know, a lawyer based law like website. So I'm gonna take it to be true, but technically this kind of supersedes that to me. If it has completely different verbiage than this, then I'm gonna go with this first. But at the same time, if it has all the verbiage of this and it has added stuff, I want to see what the added stuff is. Why was it added? Maybe it is a real deeper transcription than from here. But we're gonna see. So we're gonna read through. I also got the Constitution up. You know what? I plan on reading through the Constitution. Like, you know what? This is the highest law in the land. This is what they say, constitutional law. And the reason why I pull it up also is because there's something in this thing. Let me just show y'all this real quick. There was something in here. As y'all can see, nigga been really already going in. So for the record, it talked about a clause. It said that in the Constitution clause, it might be over here. The only clause, the plan, blah 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 blah, state penalty, the charge, where is it at? Where is it? Okay, right here at the top. Actually, at the top, I put the question mark by it. Actually, the only two clauses in the Constitution which point to this race treat them as persons whom it was morally lawfully to deal in as articles of property and hold as slaves. Now, notice they said the only two clauses in this Constitution which points to this race. Now, what race are they talking about? There's multiple races, right? Multiple Negro races, right? But they're talking about the African race specifically. But they're saying that there's two clauses in the Constitution that point to it, okay? Now, this isn't a This is supreme.justia.com, but this is also, I think this was also stated on the in the law transcript. I might have to double check that, but when you go, I'm trying to click on the wrong thing. So it says that. So when you pull up the Constitution, I pull it up, a transcript from the government, okay? And when you go to find on page, I typed in Africa, nothing pops up. I was like, okay. So they're not talking about Africans. What about Negroes? They got to be talking about Negroes in the Constitution, right? That's what they said. There's 2 clauses about it. Negro. Okay. The word Negro ain't in there. Okay, what about black? Let's try the word black. It's surely talking about some black folks, right? Zero. Zero? Okay, well, let's talk about slaves. Maybe they just refer to us as slaves in this bitch, okay? Slaves. Nah, slave. No, it's not in the Constitution. What clause could they be saying that refers to that race if the wording about that race is not in the Constitution? What about the word race? It's not in the Constitution. Right? Let me make this thing here before I forget real quick, y'all. It's not in the Constitution. I posted the late president. You said Indian. Let me type in Indian. Good idea there, Earth. And the gorgeous Earth was correct. What do we find in the Constitution? Something about Indians. And you know what's there? Which I'm so, you just really did me a hell of a favor. Notice it says excluding Indians not taxed. Oh, ain't that the main thing they were talking about? As far as birthright citizenship, let's listen to a quick video about that. I can't believe you just said that, and we just found that. That is the ancestors working through Earth, coming to me with the message, and us finding that shit right there, nigga, because that's crazy. Let me see if I can find that clip right here.
To explore with you the meaning of 6 words of the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. The recurring debate over the meaning of these words boils down to a choice between 2 alternatives. Does it mean subject merely to the regulatory jurisdiction of the United States? That is, subject to the laws of the United States, as is virtually everyone on United States soil, including aliens who are here illegally, or are here for the purpose of bearing a child to make it an American citizen? Or does the jurisdiction of the United States mean something more than that? The full and complete jurisdiction.
And notice how we're talking about jurisdiction on this Dred Scott case. Now, this is talking about birthright citizenship, which comes after which supposedly was supposed to overturn the Dred Scott case, but people say it never did, which we're going. So all this is so important right now. Let's keep going.
Requiring an allegiance that comes from a permanent lawful commitment to make the United States one's home, the place where one permanently and lawfully resides. I believe that this latter interpretation is compelled by the Citizenship Clause's text, structure, and history, as well as by common sense. I have time for just a couple of brief opening points. First, the text of the clause. If subject to the jurisdiction of the United States means nothing more than the duty of obedience to the laws of the United States, why did its framers choose such a strange way to say that? Why didn't they just say, subject to the laws of the United States? Doing so would have been quite natural, given that this straightforward, unambiguous phrase is used in both Article 3 and Article 6. The clause also ensures that birthright citizenship makes newborns citizens of both the United States and of the states wherein they reside. That is, where they live, their home. This word standing alone implies a lawful permanent residence.
Let me listen to that one last time. What's up, Nikki? Shit doesn't say Native American. I didn't think about that. It damn sure ain't say Native American in the Constitution.
And Article 6. The clause
And it doesn't say Native American in any of the Indian treaties either. I bet if we went and looked at every Indian treaty, I doubt we would see the word Native American. But let's keep going.
doing so would have been quite natural given that this straightforward, unambiguous phrase is used in both Article 3 and Article 6. The clause also ensures that birthright citizenship makes newborns citizens of both the United States and of the states wherein they reside. That is, where they live, their home. This word standing alone implies a lawful permanent residence, and it plainly excludes tourists and other lawful visitors, as well as illegal aliens who are prohibited by law from residing in a state, although they all must obey our laws. Second, the history of the clause. The clause was framed by the 39th Congress to constitutionalize the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which had been passed by that same Congress just 2 months earlier. The 1866 Act explicitly denied birthright citizenship to persons, quote, subject to any foreign power, close quote.
I need to look up that particular act of 1866 because that's what was the name of that act? Hold on. That's the same time that those treaties came out.
The 1866 Act explicitly denied Congress to constitutionalize the Civil Rights Act of 1866.
Civil Rights Act of 1866? I guess that, yeah. Civil Rights Act date. I was about to say, no, that was one in the 1900s, wasn't it? Yeah, that's the one. Because in my head, I was like, wait a minute, didn't Martin Luther King? No, Martin Luther King wasn't around the 1800s. They always now you got to understand what. Whenever there's two acts of the same name or two things of the same name, it's typically again a change on purpose. Okay, and they use the same wording to hide whatever the fuck they really doing. And that's already pissing me off, the fact that that I don't even know that there's a Civil Rights Act of 1866. And notice how you type it in, Civil Rights Act date, you don't even get that. You're going to have to find it yourself. That means it's not popular. Civil Rights Act is okay. Now, if I take off the dates, now it's got one up in there. And notice there was one in 1875 possibly. But 1866. The Civil Rights Act, let me see if there's a government site. Government source. House of Representatives, Civil Rights Bill, 1866. Let me just double check if there ain't another government source, Civil Rights of 1866. Some EDUs and whatnot. Let's take a look at both of these government sources. The fuck you mean there's a Civil Rights Act of 1866, man? 1968 says Indians. Oh yeah, that is true. I forgot. I remember hearing about it. I need to go read it. Excuse me. Yeah, I remember hearing about it. I need to go read that. Let's see. Is this it? Okay. During Reconstruction, very important. 1866, very important. Congress passed several statutes aimed at protecting the rights of the formerly enslaved, many of them over the veto of President Andrew Jackson. One such law was the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which declared that all people born in the United States were U.S. citizens and had certain inalienable rights, including the rights to make contracts, to own property, to sue in court, and to enjoy a full protection of federal law. Let's read that again. All people born in the United States were U.S. citizens. That's different from being a normal citizen. A citizen is a freeborn person, as we know, prior to 1866 in all the dictionaries. But then citizen changes to all of a sudden being some kind of municipality, being under a government and such and such. But it still retained its original, saying it was also a free man. And if you're a free man, you don't need to be under anybody's jurisdiction per se. But it's okay to be able to, again, be under the jurisdiction of a court system that's established by the people in the beginning, because there was still, court system. I mean, things set up prior to them coming in and setting up their things under our wording. And this is what I'm saying. Like, there was already terms for citizens and electors and bishops and city and as we looked up all of these and these different terms and so when they came in and changed every one of these definitions, as well as added all these legislative rules and things like that after they put themselves in office, gave themselves the majority, because they start flooding themselves in around this time. Then that's when you kind of see stuff like this, where it's like the U.S. citizens, like people born in the United States, would have already been citizens in a sense, unless you were an immigrant. So let's keep going. But the act gave the United States District Courts exclusive jurisdiction over criminal cases related to violations of the act and concurrent jurisdiction along with the U.S. Circuit Courts of all civil and criminal cases affecting those who were unable to enforce in state court the rights guaranteed by the act. The Civil Rights Act began a gradual transformation of the federal courts into the primary forums for individuals to enforce their constitutional and statutory rights. That ain't really telling me what the act is, so let's go to the other one. Other government source. Whoops. It's crazy, but no, this is the U.S. House of Representatives. Okay. History. I wish I could see a manuscript. Like, I can't see a manuscript. Let me just double check the National Archive records real quick. I feel like it would have pulled up if it was in there though. National Archive catalog, I should say. Like, I don't like just reading off a damn screen, things somebody just typed up. I want to see where it came from. That's me. Report on these rights of the community. Civil rights. That's 1993. Department of the Secretary, 1789. General records of the state, letters received. I'm still just curious. What's in these letters? Anytime I see something with a little microfilm and they talking about general letters and it's on a certain time frame, boy, this the type of shit I like to read right here. Like, what was these niggas writing down back in them days? That nigga didn't think I was gonna read this shit today. Like, I'm reading your shit today, nigga. Okay. I don't know what it is. I ain't finna take. I'll go far off in the weeds. Let me get back to what I was talking about. 1866 Civil Rights Bill, 1866. So I'm not really. I mean, from what I'm seeing, if it was gonna pull up, it pulled up pretty quick under those search terms. So it's just pulling up random shit. I'm gonna check one more other thing. I'm gonna check the Library of Congress. I want to go to a new tab. And check the Library of Congress real quick. And doesn't mean that it wasn't something. The dude actually, that it wasn't real. The dude talked about it, so it must be somewhat real, I guess. Right, here we go. Recognizing the importance of Civil Rights Act. Now, an act is not a law; it's an act, technically. So, and the law is derived from the Civil Rights Act of 1866. But this came out. You see how they came out in 2019. So that's not really what I'm looking for. Let's just double check it because it said recognizing. A resolution recognizing the import. This is somebody brought this up in 2019. Look who brought this shit up in 2019. Look who brought this shit up in 2019. Okay, man. Right. Okay, man. Let's read. Let's see why I went down this little hole. A resolution recognizing the importance of the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and the laws derived from it. So whenever somebody does that, let's see, text. Whenever these people like her, because a resolution, when you are recognizing something, it's almost like a memorial, memorializing it in a sense, or something of the sort. And when you have somebody like her putting forth some kind of resolution, recognizing some civil rights act from back in the day, it's either going to be because she's trying to utilize it for some political gain to make it look like she's some civil rights activist type of shit, or whatever the case, or maybe there's some bullshit in this thing that we really need to find out. But this, I ain't gonna read too much into this because this is just recognize the importance, whatever. Mr. Schumer, I hate these folks. That's all of them folks up there. Recognizing the importance of whatever. Whereas in the aftermath of the Civil War, the reunified United States struggled to reconstruct the war-torn states and establish laws granting newly freed slaves the same rights afforded to white citizens. Whereas the reconstruction of the United States following the conclusion of the Civil War necessarily included the integration of newly emancipated African Americans into broader society, and with the emancipation and the receipt of those emancipated African Americans of civil and legal protections. Whereas, hold on, let me smoke. As a response to the uncertain and unequal status of newly freed slaves, the 13th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States was ratified by the states on December 6, 1865, formally abolishing slavery within the United States and any part of the jurisdiction. Let me just read it again. And within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Okay. Whereas on April 9, 1866, Congress overrode the presidential veto into an act. I really just think they just kind of, it's like stating history. Like literally they just stating history in an act. Which is why it's an act. Like you're just playing games. You're acting. You acting like you give it down. Let me see. They started listing out some cases. Patterson versus McLean Credit Union. The Supreme Court narrowly interpreted Section 1977 of the revised status, blah, 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 to apply only to contract formation, finding that only certain points in a contractual engagement could be subject to the protections afforded in that section. Whereas this particular case functioned as a major setback to ensuring that all aspects of the interaction between an employee or individual with a business would be free of racial discrimination. They kind of reciting cases. Resolve this and recognizes the honors and the historical significance of the section of 1977 of the revised statuses, blah, 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 and the instrumental contribution of the law in the pursuit of equal protection for all citizens of the United States. So think about this, too. When you talk about equal protection of all United States citizens, it's kind of like some mob shit. It's kind of like some mob shit. And y'all know a lot of these mobsters made it up in Congress too. Like, hey, you're going to need to be protected. There's a lot of craziness going out here. And if you don't get up under our jurisdiction and have us protect you, you're going to have problems. That's how I be feeling. But I could be off on that. Reaffirm the commitment and blah, blah, blah. So this really ain't really what we're looking for. But Kamala Harris and her weird self did that. Now let's see if we can find anything from 1866. So since there's so many things over here, it's 259,000 things here. We're gonna drill it down by date. Notice between the 1800s, you have 165,000, the bulk of your things right there, right? And it's 1866 we're talking about, so we're going to go to 1860 to 1869, where there is 48,000 results. We at least somewhat narrowed it down some, and let's just do 1866. Shits and giggles, 13,000 results, okay? Let's see. What can we get primarily from that day? Outside the galleries of the House of Representatives, the passage of the Civil Rights Bill, Paris fashions for April 1866. Huh, let me look at that. Now, that's interesting. Hold on. I can't get closer. Let me download this so I can get closer. No, Kashif Khan, I don't want to play games. These people don't even be watching the damn. That's what I don't understand. And I'm trying to press the do not show for 10 minutes and it's not working. I don't know why it's not working, but whatever. Okay. It's like my screen ain't. I'm tapping on my screen. My screen is tripping. I don't know why my screen is tripping. Yeah, what the hell? Is my screen? Damn, I can't even scroll through. I can barely scroll through my comments. It's tripping. Racketeering type shit. Yeah, exactly. What up, crew? I can hear her cackling now. I didn't even see you say that. Yeah, nigga said on her birthday too. What was that? The legislation? I must have been the date of the legislation. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if my app that's tripping or whatever right now. When I'm scrolling and when I was tapping, I'm gonna keep going, man. But let me just stick to the whatever. Let me download this. What the hell? That's so damn small. All right. Look at this shit. Look at this possible propaganda. Look at this possible propaganda. Because you got to think, they're acting like these white T folks is all happy they done helped free the niggas. You know? Civil Rights Act is coming out and everybody is overjoyed. Even mostly these white T folks, but we threw in a couple niggas for you, okay? Outside of the galleries of the House of Representatives during the passage of the Civil Rights Bill. Not the Civil Rights Bill we know of. We're still looking for that bill, or we're going to have to just read it from that website, likely, because all this other shit keeps popping up. Paris fashion for April. Although the weather is still occasionally bitingly cold, and we are visiting at times by frost of a night, the partisan modest are determined to force the spring forward, spite of nature itself. Y'all can see, like, I can read fast as hell sometimes when I be reading, but when I be reading these old school, like the way that these people used to talk, I had to slow down sometimes. Spite of nature itself, thine, whatever, they don't say thine, but still. Okay, the windows of their establishment indeed may be compared to so many parterres, and they got words like that. What the fuck is a parterre? Well, let me highlight it by itself. A level space in a garden or yard occupied by an ornamental arrangement of flower beds. Okay, some random. Compared to so many parterres of spring flowers, velvet bonnets are fast disappearing, and in place of them, are we gonna get to the damn reason why you made this thing about the case? I mean, the what you call it, pass on the bill. We have chapeau of white crepe and of rice and other fancy straws. A new shape just introduced, and one likely to become very. Hold on, y'all. What up, boss? Yeah, but what's up? Oh, okay, yeah. Nah, yeah, yeah, I'll be at the office a lot today. I don't have any appointments, so I'm probably gonna. I got that table in. I got either some chairs in or those cabinets in, or whatever. And I got those sconces in, so I'm gonna go up there and start putting that shit together. Where outside where? Unless they done added some other shit that I hadn't seen. I mean, I have to look, but no, there was like three other boxes, yeah, yesterday that I saw that was somebody else's. Now they had threw two of mine over there. That's the only reason why I know. But I need to go down there and just double check to make sure they ain't added no more. But well, I was there yesterday, day before yesterday. I picked those up or whatever, threw them in the car and took them up there. All right, for sure. All right, bet. My bad, y'all. All right, so let's keep reading. It appears to be nothing more than the less than a hat. Man, hold on, man. I ain't finna read it. Aristocrats and was covering their heads. Bullshit, a new form of fancy, whatever, light colored velvet shit, leaves of warmth. Be a favorite tent with strings to match. And what the hell? This ain't got nothing to do with the Civil Rights Bill. They literally Paris fat. This ain't got nothing to do with the goddamn bill. All right, that was a waste of goddamn time. Okay. Let me see. How I get back? Okay, there we go. Hold on. I gotta say, where the hell is my search results? Okay, the lobby of the House of Representatives during the passage of the Civil Rights Bill 1866. Message from the President of the United States returning bill to protect all persons of the United States in their civil rights to and furnish the means of their vindication. And notice it's just like it's always about protection. That's why I was saying that because it's like, why does me being a citizenship just gives me this protection? I get it, you know what I'm saying, but like, you know, I guess that's what you use the government for is to protect. I guess you call the cops, you call the fire department, you call the ambulance. Now that I think about it, you go there if you gotta sue somebody. You go there. The other part of it is the judicial part is how they over police on certain extra codes and statutes that ain't that serious, but I guess you do to protect your property, to protect. So I guess if I'm really thinking about it, I guess we do use the government mostly to protect us. But then you got licenses and stuff like you got to get a business license and stuff. And technically, some of that is for taxation. They've coupled and now listen to it. Now it does sound like some mobster shit. They've coupled protection with taxation. And we really wasn't supposed to be taxed, right? We supposed to be free men living on the earth doing what you want to do, especially us Indians, okay? But now the motherfuckers coming on the land can be taxed, but us Indians shouldn't be taxed. And so when you think about it, we want to get the protection. And he's like, you want this protection, you're gonna have to pay this tax. Right? You're gonna have to give us that jurisdiction, you're gonna pay this tax. And in doing that, in getting that protection, now we might over police you and it might be more of a burden than it is a protection. Now you see where we're going. Now we got you under the laws and jurisdiction, and we can kind of enslave you and still kind of get you to be slaves and get corporate labor out of you at cheap rates, because you've now accepted our protection, given us taxes to pay for that protection, and now we utilize that protection to over enforce that shit on you. It's really a crazy game. Definitely racketeering. It's really a really crazy game. But okay, let's keep it. That's a message. So we're gonna look at that real quick, but that's just a message. I wanted to find the actual bill or the act. It should be an act wrote down by Congress, right? If that's what it is, that is Stevens Papers Congressional Material Bill, undated. The State Rights Democrat, 1866. State Rights Democrats, newspaper clippings. Let's do this. Over here, there is a option for. There's typically an option for legislation unless there isn't any legislation. Typically, it'll be right here. I can eliminate all these newspaper clippings. Then we got books. We'll look at manuscript and mix. periodical. But I'll go back here in a minute and show you. But typically, I think legislation is one of them. So I think there is no legislation on this Civil Rights Act bill in the Library of Congress or the National Archive records. And what does that mean to you? What does that mean? If there is no actual legislation, then these acts instead then that was never law. Then it was never a law in a sense. So I took out all of that, and now we just got manuscripts. Afro-American military collection, no compromise of human rights, no disenfranchisement on account of color, speech. So that's a speech by somebody in the Senate in 1866. Mary Church telling rights, speeches and writings. Anna Dixon, family correspondent writings. This shit ain't got nothing to do with the Civil Rights Bill of 1866. Frederick Douglass Papers, correspondence, general course. I'm just curious about what's in this. This is something quick. Well, it looks like it's multiple pages, but I was curious on what this says. Card from the colored people to Congress. The following card will explain itself. We commend it to the consideration to Congress. Go down here. The undersigned parties representing large numbers of colored citizens, North and South, and in the District of Columbia, being authorized to speak, most respectfully submit that in the issue now pending before Congress for the extension of the franchise and on the vote is soon to be taken, the action of the same should be based on the idea that there can be of right be no privileged class before the law in a Republican government. We ask respectfully that the bill which you shall pass affecting franchise in the District of Columbia, whether it shall have limitations or not, be made to affect alike all loyal citizens in the district. And why is everything tripping today, man? Good, yeah. This website be doing that, so it ain't just something crazy, but this website be doing that. On the question, okay, here we go. Let me just do this. On the question as to the ability of the colored people to intelligently exercise the right, we believe that we may challenge comparison with the masses and do not dread an educational qualification, but so seriously and most earnestly object to any discrimination in such qualification on account of color, because to do so would be individuously affecting us and exposing us to similar class legislation throughout the land, and thus make us liable to the greatest injustice. We wish to be impressed upon your minds that in the seeking this right, we ask for no curtail, whatever. Okay, whatever. This ain't really got shit to do with that bill. And there's 70 pages in this. There was some actual written transcripts. Hold on, I just wanted to just see what that was real quick. My bad, man. I ain't even got nowhere near, so I'm about to just go back to the damn Dred Scott case. This is what happens when I start reading and start going through this shit, man. It be important, man. What's up, everybody? What's up, Sister Moon? Appreciate the gifts. Appreciate you coming in. What's up, everybody? So these are supposed to be letters from the Frederick Douglass Papers, general correspondence. See, I'd be interested in reading this. What was Frederick Douglass talking about? What was his mind frame for real about shit, especially from the time? I would definitely be interested in reading this, because I really don't remember shit about Frederick Douglass. Although something in your I can read it, but so empty to make my clear questions always for the whatever. We'll get it out. Let's go back to Dred Scott. I'm crazy. Let me get back to Dred Scott. Do I want to save this? Whatever. I'll be fine. I don't need to read it. I'll be fine. I don't need to go down another rabbit hole right now. That's why I got on there because I was looking. Okay, 1866. So we don't see anything in the Library of Congress. We don't see anything in the other than this president letter bill or letter president to the letter. It's 12 images reordered. Read in order to print to protect all persons in the United States civil rights and to furnish the means of vindication. Let me just look at the first page. It says returning bill, so almost like a bill to protect message to. But this is a message to the president returning bill number 61 to protect all citizens. And I just want to see what that means. To protect all persons in the United States civil rights and to furnish the means of their vindication with his objections thereof. March 27, 1866. Read in order to be printed. President, message from the President of the United States returning that bill. So that's where they got the name. Okay. Let's just see what it says real fast. To the Senate of the United States, I regret that the bill which has passed both House of Congress entitled an act to protect blah 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 blah. Same shit we just said. United States. What is that? Right here contains provisions which I cannot approve, consistently with my sense of duty to the whole people and my obligations to the Constitution of the United States. I am therefore constrained to return it to the Senate and the House in which it originated, with my objections to it becoming law. By the first section in the bill, all persons born in the United States and subject to the foreign power, excluding Indians not taxed. Okay, well, let me save this. Look, I was not even gonna read this, and y'all see how long it took me to find something, and y'all see I just found. Y'all just seen the process. Like, sometimes it's just on the whim. I was about to just click out the shit. Like, this is a message about it. It ain't really the bill, but let me click in here, and there we go. Indians not taxed. You see that? So, how do I want to save this? It's 12 images. PDF complete, or is that just a image? Let me see if this is the whole PDF. Yeah, that's what I need. That's what I want. Let me save this. I want to read it right now, but yeah, that's what the fuck I want. Save the files. I better call it 1866 bill. No, civil rights. Say we're gonna read just this first page and try to get back over to what you call it. Let's see, and this is kind of what the old dude was saying in that video. So we're kind of where we were in the video, and going back, we was at the Constitution, and then we'll go back to the Dred Scott case, because I'm just trying to get to what an explanation of how we got here. It's not that I don't remember. So basically, we was on the Dred Scott case, and then we ended up on the Constitution. And what we found is the Constitution didn't mention niggas, black, African, whatever, slaves or anything anywhere in the Constitution. And then the Gorgeous Earth said, hey, it's probably look up Indian or whatever. And then we looked up Indian. It said something about Indian not taxed. And then we looked at the Indian not tax thing. We went and looked at a video of a current day people talking about birthright citizenship, and he mentioned the Civil Rights Bill of 1866. So we went to go look for the Civil Rights Bill of 1866. We did not find it in the we found this in the Library of Congress finally, but we didn't find anything in the National Archives records. We did find eventually this right here, which is a letter, not necessarily a bill, but they're talking about a bill that had passed, but I guess maybe it didn't go into law. Crazy. They're talking about Chinese. I just seen right here in 1866. What are they classifying the fucking Chinese for? As in 1866, we'll get to that. I don't know. I just kind of glanced that way and I seen Chinese. That's kind of funny. But then we found this, and this actually has the whole thing with Indians not taxed, still keeping us on the exact path we have been on. Since we go. So I just want y'all to know that, look, mentally I'm on top. Okay. I might be going all over the place and get far off in the weeds, but mentally, I know exactly where the hell I just went and why I got there and what the purpose was. You know what I'm saying? You gotta love it, man. So we're all here talking about Indians not taxed. So let's finish reading this section, but we know where we're at. It says, by the first section of the bill, all persons born in the United States and not subject to any foreign power, excluding Indians not taxed, are declared to be citizens under the United States. Now, what is excluding Indians not taxed? Now, you would think it could be one of two things. It's just the Indians that were just not taxed because they were not under the jurisdiction of the United States. Or it is the Indians who are poor Indians versus rich Indians, because just like you don't get taxed if you don't make enough money today, you would be a citizen or a person who is not taxed, right? If you don't have much of a job, whatever, you will not get taxed. In fact, you might even get some of them niggas get a damn refund or whatever if they got kids and shit. You ain't even get taxed. How you get a refund? Not just playing, but we know how it is. Some of us have enjoyed that ourselves. I've done it. You know what I'm saying? When I was young, shit, I had my first kids at 18 to 19. At 19, I'm sorry. I had my first child at 19. Second child at 21. You better be goddamn sure a nigga wasn't making enough money to be taxed. And I had some kids, and I, you know what I'm saying, got me a damn whatever. Okay, but let's keep going. In this United Classic here by the United States, this provision comprehends the Chinese of the Pacific states, Indians subject to taxation. What? This provision comprehends the Chinese of the Pacific states, Indians subject to taxation, the people called gypsies, as well as the entire race designated as blacks, people of color, Negroes, mulattoes, and persons of African blood. How is a Chinese and Indian subject to taxation? Hold on, wait a minute. No. That's too separate. I'm sorry. There's a comma there. But still, what the hell is the Chinese doing here? You know what I'm saying? The hell are the Chinese being here talked about in this damn thing? And what are they classifying these Chinese at on the 1850 census? On the 1860 census? On the 1870 census when they start? But even on the 1870 census, you may not even see many Chinese. Now, some of the Chinese show up as Chinese, but what are these Chinese doing here? Some of these Chinese people look exactly like the people in the tribes, right? Oh yeah, this is crazy. So so they're saying the provision comprehends the Chinese of the Pacific states, comma, Indian subjects to taxation, comma, the people called gypsies, comma, and what the fuck is that? Egyptians? Gypsies are typically Egyptians? And think about that. Let's just look that up. I got to look that up now. Just to make sure I'm thinking right. Because think about that. What was gypsies getting classified as on the census back then in 1866? The term gypsies is an exonym that is often considered a racial slur and a pejorative by many in the community. For which community? The preferred term of that ethnic group are Romani people or Roma. Romani people, really? Who are Indo-Aryan ethnic group that originated in northern India and live worldwide, predominantly in Europe and the Americas. Some of y'all might have been typing something and I ain't seen it, I already know. But let's just see what these people look like. Romani people. Let's do a phenotype check. Phenotype check. Oh. Okay. Romani people. What were they classifying these people at that time? I don't even know what to call them. They're like an Arab slash. Look, man. Look. Hold on, let me see what y'all saying. I think Los taught that the other day. Egyptians are gypsies. That's what I heard. That's what I was told. Egyptians were gypsies because that's where the word Egypt, the gyp part comes from. Egypt, gypsies, the gyp part. Like, and people be like, "Man, I got gypped." That means like you got Egypt or gypped at it, but they will. That's like a pejor or a slur in a sense as well. Um, Said they ain't never got a license plate on their car. So I mean, think about what are these people classified it as back then, and is this the same people they're talking about? Is it really Romany people? Because that's what ChatGPT said. I don't believe. Not ChatGPT. That's what this said. Let's look at this. The term stems from a historical mistaken belief in the Middle Ages that the people came from Egypt, while some in the UK still use gypsy or Romany. Well, technically, they may look like the Egyptians of today, not the Egyptians of possibly yesteryear, but Egyptian people. Let's just do that. Do they look like the Romani people? Possibly, yeah. They could be the ones that kind of like took over. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. And then you got some shit like that, but and then you got to wonder like, because people be like, they're dark too, right? And they got straight hair. Yes, that's a different kind of being right there. Okay, comma. Once I get to the office today and get things put together, I will see if that might work. Period. My bad, y'all. And let's look at the Romani people again. We so far off in the woods, man. Romani people, Romani kids, and you know things have changed over time. But like, what these? Why would these people need to be like for these? Think about it like this. We're gonna go back to that bill. What we're just reading. Think about it like this. This is a civil rights bill or act of 1866. And they're talking about certain people who are here. Now, in my opinion, notice they didn't mention Mexicans that I see, Chinese, Indians, Gypsies, and all the race of Negroes of an African blood. Persons of African blood. No, hold on. Let's read the way that the entire race, as well as the entire race designated as blacks, people of color, Negroes, mulattoes, and African blood. Notice that, because in the case of Dred Scott, they did say a specific line that this guy admits to being a Negro of the African race and is of pure African blood. And it's almost like this came out around that same time. This is 1866. Dred Scott Case was 1857. It's not that they were looking towards this. I feel like this is now like trying to incorporate things from said case into law, into some kind of act, into some kind of bill. Because we're gonna read through this again, this right here, but like it just. But anyway, what I was trying to say before I got into that was, they're not talking about Mexicans. They're not talking about other types of people without going into whatever, right? So it's like what I'm saying is there had to be a quite a bit of gypsies here for them to be like, did you mention the gypsies? You know what I'm saying? And think that's a very specific thing. Shouldn't the gypsies, if they're Africans, if they're in Egypt, be listed down here with these same people of African blood? But apparently there's somebody different, right? But again, they never talk about the Japanese. They talked about the Chinese. So what I'm getting to is there had to be quite a bit of these folks here for them to want to mention these folks in the bill, not just a few of them. You know what I'm saying? That's just my mindset on what I'm reading here. But it says the provision comprehends the Chinese of the Pacific states, Indians subject to taxation, the people called gypsies, as well as the entire race designated as blacks, people of color, Negroes, mulattoes, and the persons of African blood. Every individual of these races born in the United States is by the bill made a citizen of the United States. Not made a citizen, made a citizen of the United States. Remember the wordplay? There's Pennsylvania, and then there's the state of Pennsylvania, right? That's two different things. One is a corporation, one is just Pennsylvania, the landmass, right? For those who don't know, those who don't know the what you call it, like why is my screen fucking up, dude? I don't know if it's my damn dude. I can't even tap anything at the bottom. What the hell? Hold on,
Oh, hi, Sam.
hold on. I'll let you up, but I can't hear you. Give me 2 seconds. Let me plug this in because I won't be able to hear what you're saying. Hold up. All right, if y'all can y'all hear me? I should be able to hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I just want to publicly apologize to you. I was wrong for cussing you out that day. You was just really caught in the crossfire. You a very nice man. You never done anything to me, and you did not deserve to be talked to like that at all. So I just wanted to apologize. If you don't accept my apology, I do understand because I was in the wrong. But I do hope you'll accept my apology.
Man, that one thing that's is big of you to come up and do this, and I must definitely do accept your apology and appreciate it. And I throw in, you didn't cuss me out. You just said, "Sam, you are my enemy." You threw me
No,
in with the
you not
apology.
my enemy. You
But I
not.
knew I wouldn't. I know I wouldn't. But I wasn't gonna say anything to you until you was good. I was like, all right, I just make sure you straight, because
No,
I know you
it's
were
a
just like, I'm
lot.
gonna include everybody on the panel because fuck it, So I wasn't tripping. I wasn't tripping with that.
No, I need to work on that. I be mad at the world when I'm mad, but it's a lot of stuff that be going on in the back end that you don't be having no idea what be going on in the back end. You don't deserve to be treated like that or talked to like that. So I don't want to keep you too long, but yeah, I just want to apologize.
I appreciate that, Pen. Nah, you always cool with me. You know what I'm saying? So I'll keep fucking with you. You keep fucking with me. We good.
All right, all right. You have a good day, Sam.
All right. Have a good morning, Pistol.
Bye bye.
Bye. Appreciate that, man. Yeah, that's real big, man. Good folks. Let me unplug that. Yeah, that's good folks, man. Y'all, and this is why I fucks with folks. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody might say what they say, whatever they do, whatever, but yeah, if I ain't had no problem with nobody, you know what I'm saying? I ain't finna trip. And I knew she ain't had no problem with me. I already knew. But it's still cool that she did that, so I appreciate that. I knew she wasn't talking about me. For those that don't know, it don't even matter. Don't worry about what it was. It really wasn't nothing big at all. So, but we gonna get back on this lesson. But that gives me a good time to roll something up, y'all. It said that's real. That's what we need. Peace. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course, man. Pistol always good, folks. With me, you know what I'm saying, and with several of us, you know what I'm saying. So I know everybody ain't got the same sentiment. Just like I don't like people out there. That's the people out there I don't like right now. Like I ain't fucking with Prophet, nigga, and I probably won't. Then I feel like that nigga did kind of come in on some sly ass Sulani shit. Here I am now, I'm talking shit. But I feel like that niggas came in on some sly ass Sulani shit. You know what I'm saying? The difference between him and like a Pen is Pen stays 10 toes down on the Indian shit. No matter what kind of personal whatever she might have with people, she stays 10 toes down on the Indian shit, and she fights like hell, and she goes on live stream, and it ain't like she goes on these live streams and she is just talking shit. She literally pulling up sources that she's talking that hell of shit, and that's the type of shit I like to see. That's a good energy, a good warrior, knowledge based energy. You know what I'm saying? Compared to like a prophet, where I feel like somebody's just kind of weaseling their way into communities and trying to get talking points and trying to get niggas on certain sides, and then y'all niggas can suck a, you know what? I don't want to get banned, but y'all can suck one. You know what I'm saying? I feel like some of y'all do over there in the Sulani crew anyway, but you know that's a whole nother talking point. And I'll say that to them. I don't give a damn. I feel like they are. I feel like it's a group full of zesty people. And I feel like a lot of these groups are starting off that way. And that makes me wonder, why is that? Why? Not that I really care. I don't. I'm fine with anybody in their preference is sexual, because we got people in the Indian community that's like that, and I don't really trip. But when there's a bunch of y'all always coming together, starting a particular thing, and it gets pushed, one thing we do know is the Democrats use a lot of the LG, you know what, community a lot, right? They're the ones that was always being used as political pawns. You'll see them on TikTok. There was that one dude, that was that black, he's still around, but that black dude, he was like light, like a lot of them are light skin with like the little goat. It ain't a goatee, kind of got a little whatever beard. But long story short, he just be like yelling and cut. His whole thing is just cussing you out. You motherfucker, and next thing you know, he on Kamala Harris's page. You know, he up there with Kamala Harris and all this shit at the White House. And I'm just like, man, every one of these folks, that Michael Harriet person, all these folks be super, super, super like wet tissue paper in this bitch. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, they're Democratic shields. And so when I see the same kind of folks organizing black movements, I'm gonna question it. I don't give a damn if it's against, certain people's, feelings or whatever, towards the LG race, or I mean not race, the LGBT whatever people. I don't give a damn if you say I'm this, I'm talking bad about them, nigga. Y'all not about to make it so that we can't talk so freely about you, but then you're going to be out here publicly organizing, publicly coming up with new different groups all the time, publicly in the atmosphere, and then many times when you out there publicly, y'all are spreading propaganda, spreading bad talking points, and all this other shit, and you want us to be quiet. Don't talk about them. That community's going to come after you. I don't give a fuck. Look. If you can be in that community all you want, as long as you on the up and up, I don't give a damn what you take in the back. Okay? I don't give a damn what you doing. Okay? But I do give a damn when you get out here and y'all conspiring together. Why are y'all conspiring together? How come it's so easy to get groups of y'all together to make propaganda or bad groups like the whole thing with Black Lives Matter? And it's not just men, it's women too. Black Lives Matter was full of LGBT butch like women. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are people of that I'm trying to keep myself from getting, certain words, but same ex community, why are they so corruptible? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are they so utilized? At first, I used to think, and I'm gonna get back on that. I'm gonna get off this subject. But at first, I used to think it was because they had a shield up, in a sense, that LGBT shield of, well, I'm out here advocating, and you can't talk too badly about me because don't go too harsh on me, because then I'll start throwing out, oh, are you a homophobe, or are you a this or that or whatever, even though you didn't really say too much, whatever. But then when you start to question, okay, well, hey, how come your entire council or your board of directors is full of nothing but LGBT folks? Oh, well, do you have a problem with us? Huh? Are we not intelligent to sit on a board and be leaders of a group? I could just see that kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? So I used to think it was like this cloak of whatever. But now I'm starting to see it's like something more of like a conspiracy, something more of like they're conspiring together for whatever reason. And let me shut up, man. Let me get off of this. And not everybody, not all of them, of course, not all of them, right? But for some reason, there's a section of them that they just get used, man, and I can't stand it. Let me get off of profit. Let me get off of profit. Anyway, okay, so every individual. Okay, so we talking about this right here. It does not purport to declare, and I don't care if y'all tell that nigga I said it. Yeah, I said it. God damn it. Them niggas was trying to get me on their bullshit. They was trying to get me into a group with Chief Natural and them back in the day. You know what I'm saying? But I don't do groups at all. Like I fuck with people. But like to be like in a group where I gotta be there, they be like, but it's like niggas coming up with meetings and shit. And we got to do similar shit. Everybody worry of this today. Like, don't get me wrong. I'd rather go with the public than a group. Group shit is like clicking up, right? But the Indian community is not a group. It's everybody who comes together who realizes who they are, and that's who I fuck with. And I fuck with us the most. Okay, any little subsection of anything that anybody try to do outside of this, I don't give a fuck about. Sulani, FBA, Friedman, any other little bullshit that they say. But let me get off of that because that's also similar to these reclassifications. That's what I was gonna say. Notice how in 1866, which is prior to a lot of the birth certificate records that most of y'all will see. Now, some people we have found records prior, but 1866, you got to think a lot of us in the Midwest in the South, they didn't even start getting into the areas to start even counting our people in censuses until around 1820, really, 1810, 1820. And so from 1820 to 1866, you wouldn't have had a lot of interaction with them. But what I'm getting to is that all the reclassifications are listed here. Blacks, people of color, Negroes, mulattoes, are of persons of African blood, which is why what I'm getting to is you do not want to classify yourself as these. You want to be that Indian that you are. And this shows that they were putting this in some kind of language, whether this is a bill, an act, or whatever the fuck. They was putting the language in somewhere, and to see it all in one spot in the 1866 time frame, during the same time the 1866 treatise comes out to all of a sudden make us who are real Indians be like we're Negroes of African blood and all this other shit. This has all the classifications on it. Later on, we will all be classified on birth certificates and census records as either one of these. Okay? Never the word African. Funny. It's the trickery. It's like we can put these down for you, and little do you know it ties you back to that. You just thought we were talking about your skin color. You just thought this talked about your skin color. You just thought that talked about your skin color in Spanish. You just thought this was a mixture of the two skin colors. But we're saying these all tie you now to African blood, even though, yeah, prior to that, it did mean those. It meant exactly what you thought it was prior. But this is 1866 Reconstruction, nigga. We are reconstructing shit. We changed definitions in the dictionaries on it. We changed it in the law libraries in some cases, law books. In fact, we add black as being unalive by the law in 1891 in Black's Law Dictionary, years afterwards, not prior. So why it's so important to know everything, when it started, timelines, reasons why, X, Y, and Z. Okay? More ties back to Africa too. That's and they didn't even throw it in there. Man, I can't even scroll up in my comments like that, y'all. So if I'm missing in the comments, y'all, on my screen tripping or the app is tripping right now. So don't hold it against me. Y'all know I like to interact or look back up in the comments. And now when I scroll up, it's like I think I just might have tapped on somebody's. I think I might have tapped on something on your sister Moon. If it sends something your way, I didn't mean to do that. But yeah, so my screen is just tripping. So okay, let's keep reading it. Every individual of these races, born in the United States, this bill is made a United States citizen. It does not purport to declare or confer any other right of citizenship than federal citizenship. Oh, I can't read without without something. Y'all don't understand the nature of that sentence, especially in 1866. He said, "Marriage isn't even an English word; it's Dutch German for wall." I didn't know that. And see that, and I hadn't even looked into the merge thing. But there's been a lot of people that's been going real in on it. Said, "Damn, they playing with my life." Oh, they is it tripping? Now it might be. I might have, like I said, mine is kind of tripping too. But look at that. It says it does not purport to declare or confer any other right of citizenship than federal citizenship. Why is that important? Because a citizen prior to 1860s only meant a free man of the inhabitants of the state of a landmass. So what it's saying, it does not make you a citizen, which is a free man of the landmass. It makes you a federal free person of the landmass, which isn't really free. It's the new version of citizenship, which is in the law dictionary that we pulled up yesterday, right? Uh, Man, I got a screenshot there. This is crazy. This section alone. Okay. It does not purport. Okay. Oh yeah, to the federal senate, and it does not purport to give these classes of persons any status as citizens of states. You're a federal citizen, not a citizen of a state, not a normal citizen, except that which may result from the status as citizens of the United States. So you cannot be a citizen of the state. You can be a citizen of the United States. It's all about the wording. All about the wording. Man. So, oh, that makes sense. It makes you a subject to the exactly, and not a free person upon the land. The word, but they're tricking you because the word citizen technically means a free person on the land. But that's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. hmm And it says does not purport to give these guys status as free citizen in the state except for the citizen of the United States. The power to confer the right of state citizenship is just as exclusively with the several states as the power to confer the right of federal citizenship is with Congress. The right of federal citizenship, thus, to be conferred on the several expected races before mentioned is now, for the time, proposed to be given by law. If, as is claimed by many, all persons who are native born already are, by virtue of the Constitution, citizens of the United States. Let me read that again. Hold on. If, as is claimed by many, all persons who are native born already are, by vigor of the Constitution, citizens of the United States, the passage of the pending bill cannot be necessary to make them such. If, on the other hand, such persons are not citizens, as may be assumed from the proposed legislation to make them such, the grave question presents itself whether, when 11 of the 36 states are unrepresented in Congress at the present time, it is sound policy to make our entire colored population and all other expected classes citizens of the United States. Question, making it a question. 4 million of them have just emerged from slavery to into freedom. Can it be reasonably supposed that they possess the requisite qualifications to entitle them to all the privileges and immunities of citizens of the United States? Question mark. Have the people of the several states of the express. So I'm gonna have to read through this whole thing. It's 12 pages, and I'll do it, even though I'm already reading through the goddamn. Dred Scott Case. Who put this out there? Somebody with the last name Colfax, House of Representative Lafayette Foster of the Senate. I certify this act did originate in the Senate. J.W. Forney. Uh, and be it further enacted that upon the question of the law arising in any cause of provision act final appeal. Okay, whatever. All right, yeah, I just had to read this whole thing at some point, man. I got it saved. Um, So, is that the civil rights bill? Let's read part of this. Or this is quick. Now, this is a .gov source when you type in the Civil Rights Bill of 1866. Let's see if they're talking about the same thing we were somewhere just reading. And you got to think, man. You got the Dred Scott case happens 1857, and all of a sudden there's some case law that gets put out there that now distinguishes some kind of African not being a citizen. In 1860, 3 years later, you have the slave codes being rewritten. They call it the slave codes of 1860, and all of a sudden it includes what was written in the Dred Scott bill. So it's directly linked by adding that in to the slavery codes in 1860. Then you jump 6 years later, you have a civil rights bill here, which is going back and forth between African language and reclassifications all sitting up in the same situation. 1866, you also then have all the six different tribes or nations of Indians sign all brand new treaties, all of a sudden all including African language. And then eventually you get the Dawes Rolls. And then there might be some shit in between that, to be honest with you. The shit is crazy. The shit is foul, but you can follow it. We can follow it. But okay, let's look, because first you put it on the law books, then you start writing bills because now you have a law. Now you start looking at civil rights bill because you have it on law. Now that you've made it into bills, now you can start enforcing it even more so into the jurisdiction of these folks, and you've done placed your jurisdiction over these folks, and now you're just trying to say and establish that fact. Now it's not a fact, but establish the idea that these people are from Africa, and now that you've established the idea that they're from Africa, any kind of legislation brought forth by a person that claims to be a black mulatto slave, whatever the case may be, has now said or admitted that he's somebody that is from African descent, which basically makes them not a citizen, which basically takes them out of the jurisdiction, or basically allows you to use any kind of technicality against them that you want to, because you don't have to take them out of the jurisdiction. You damn sure wouldn't take them out of the jurisdiction if they broke the law against you. So, either way, all of a sudden you'll be under their jurisdiction and you'll be subject to the laws therewith, right? But okay. On this date, the House overrode President Andrew Johnson's veto of the Civil Rights Bill of 1866. On this date, the House overrode President Johnson's veto. Okay. Of the Civil Rights Bill of 1866, with near unanimous Republican support, 122 to 41, marking for the first time Congress legislated marking the first time Congress legislated upon civil rights. First introduced by Senate Judiciary Chairman Lyman Trumbull of Illinois, the bill mandated that all persons born in the United States, with the exception of American Indians, were hereby declared to be citizens of the United States. The legislation granted all citizens the full and equal benefit of the laws and proceedings for the security of person and property. To radical Republicans who believed the federal government had a role in shaping a multiracial society in the post-war South, the measure seemed the next logical step after the ratification of the 13th Amendment on December 13th, 1865. I got to look more further into the 13th Amendment again. I did read that, though. I read the amendment. I may need to look into, the newspapers around what the talking points were around this 13th Amendment to really understand it too. But Representative Henry Raymond of New York noted that the legislation was one of the most important bills ever presented to the House for its action. President Johnson disagreed with the level of federal intervention implied by the legislation, calling it another step, or rather a stride towards centralization and concentration of all legislative power in the national government. In his veto message, the bill of okay, whatever. That ain't real. As you can see, one thing I want you to realize is that it's a bill, civil rights bill. What's the? See, I'm gonna have to look up what's the difference between a bill, an act, a law, and look it up in different time frames. But I'm on the government website. They're not showing me the actual bill. This might be the bill, but this says it's a message to from the president about it, about the bill S. Let me try this. Bill S. Let me try this. But I mean, if that's the case, it should have just pulled it up. Refers to different legislative items depending on the jurisdiction. Human trafficking case. Okay, let me put 1866. I had to do all that just to find it, y'all. Here's the actual bill. I could have just stopped. Goodness gracious. Here's the actual bill. You gotta look, man. Sometimes it's not easy to find what you're looking for, man. And I mean, I had to. It wasn't like it was hard, but you had to like really type in the right thing. And this is a government website too. It should have pulled up with the other government websites, man. Okay, but it's short, so we ain't got much to read. Good. I was about to say now I got all this to read. That's why I was getting annoyed. I was like, now I got to read this whole thing, man. I just read these other things. You got me reading the wrong shit. Okay, pissing me off, wasting my time, man. But it's all good. But that's important because I'm still gonna read that because that was a message about this bill. So let's see what this is. So the actual bill in the Senate of the United States, March 13th, 1866, ordered that the bill to protect all persons in the United States in their civil rights and furnish the means of vindication okay, the same thing we read earlier. To protect all persons in the United States, Civil Rights Act and furnish the means of vindication. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress enabled that all persons born in the United States are not subject to any and not subject to any foreign power, excluding Indians not taxed. So basically saying what we said, but let's keep reading. Are hereby declared to be citizens of the United States without distinction of color, and there shall be no discrimination in civil rights or immunities among the inhabitants of any state or territory of the United States. Now, citizens of the United States, right? Not just citizens. Territory of the United States on account of race, color, or previous condition of slavery. But the inhabitants of every race and color, without regard to any previous condition of slavery or involuntary servitude, except for its punishment for crime whereof the parties shall have been duly convicted, shall have the same right to make and enforce contracts to sue be. How come it don't? How come it stopped there? Oh, it's 11 pages. I thought it was gonna be quick. Amendments. This is pretty cool though. And so let's see. Okay, regardless of the color, contracts to sue be parties and give evidence to inherit, purchase, lease, sell, hold, and convey real and personal property, and to full and equal benefit of all laws and proceedings for the security of person and property, and shall be subject to like punishment, pains, and penalties, and to none other any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom to the contrary notwithstanding. It says that any person who, under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom, shall subject or cause to be subjected any inhabitant of any state or territory to the deprivation of any right secured or protected by this act, or to different punishment, pains, or penalties on the act on the account of such persons having at any time been held in a condition of slavery or involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, or by reason of his color, race, then is prescribed for the punishment of white persons, shall be deemed guilty of a misdemeanor, and on the conviction shall be punished by fine and not exceeding $1,000, or imprisoned by 1 year under the discretion of the court. Now, real quick, let me just skim what I'm not seeing here. Let me just make sure, and I'm gonna do a control F. What I'm not seeing in here is anything about an African. I'm not seeing anything about an African. Let me first make sure I can find a word on the page. Okay, cases. So, because sometimes it don't work. So, cases. They can find the words on the page. African. 0 in the bill. But hold on. How come we can find it in this message going over here? That has nothing to do with the bill. It's although it's a government source, although it's a letter from the president about the bill, it's not the goddamn bill. If the goddamn bill says nothing about African blood and doesn't even mention these reclassifications as listed here, then why the fuck are they talking about it? This shit is crazy. Again, basically, this Civil Rights Act or bill or act. So you have an act, but then people talk about a bill. But it's talking about Indians, not taxed, whatever, slavery, servitude, different people in no matter what, every inhabitant of race and color. Not once does it talk about Africans, Negroes, mulattoes, blah blah blah, and them being African blood or any of that. So it's like that's the. Mm, I don't know. I don't know what y'all thinking right now. I'm thinking stuff in my head, but I want to say that when the bill comes out, like you got to get to the real shit, basically. Just like how I had to get to the actual case with Dred Scott to actually read it to find the real truth. You got to get back to the original document. Just like how I get back to these original books and they have many fake books out. This is just this right here is the actual bill. This right here is just a correspondence of some nigga talking about the bill. Okay. Message from the President of the United States was important, returning bill to protect all persons or whatever. Read in order to be printed, even though they printed it, and so you can read it, but the bill, you have to go read the bill. And I need to read through this to see like what man, god damn. Let me save this real quick. Look, man, I ain't even talked about the Dred Scott case this morning. Hey Sam, I have a question. What's up, Delias? What question you got? Do you help with personal trees too? No, I do not do trees. You would want to look at people like Chief EJ Smokum. He might be in here, or he might not be in here just more, but you might look up Chief EJ Smokum. You look up Gia Santana. Mm. People like Meta, and people like Darvit, Osiris, all of those people. They'll help you out. So let me say this. Add the favorites. No, I don't want to add the favorites. I want to save the files. My bad. I'm in my head here. This is the Civil Rights Act of 1866. What up, Obi-Wan? Man, you missed good shit too. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I ain't even really got started on what we supposed to be reading through the Dred Scott case. Um, we were supposed to be reading through the case. I don't even know if I even got started. I think I did, and then something mentioned the Constitution. Yeah, something mentioned that uh African race in the Constitution, or it said that some said about two clauses in the Constitution that mentioned something about Africans or this race, and then we went to the Constitution to see it, and we noticed in the transcription of the Constitution, not once did it mention the word African. But again, this is words on the page. It's supposed to be the transcription. I can go to the actual. That's supposed to be the actual what you call it, the actual thing. But it's supposed to be a transcription. And then from the Constitution, we looked up the word Indian. From that led us down to a rabbit hole that one, the Constitution talks nothing about Africans. But then we looked up Indians. That led us down the rabbit hole of watching the video that said, hey, there's the Civil Rights Bill of 1866. And we wanted to go look up what was the Civil Rights Bill of 1866 because we know about the Civil Rights Bill of 1960 something with you know the Reverend the Doctor Martin Luther the King, Martin Luther the King, uh, with the Reverend Doctor from there. So, but there was one way prior to it, and so when we go to look up that bill, it also mentions things about Indians not taxed and taxed, but at some point it starts mentioning things about African people of an African race, at least in the message. Here we start seeing things about African blood, and then we also see this thing about blacks, mulattoes, people of color, all the classifications of reclassifications before we get reclassified to all of those. By 1866, some of us had already been classified to some of those on some records. But most people see records after that. Um, and it will be not most, some people only see records after that. Most of us can look further back. Um, excuse me. And so um, this right here has all of that, but this was a message about the bill. And then we eventually found the actual real bill after looking at multiple government websites. We had to go back, finally go to this. And I'm going to have to realize that now that I know that if I'm looking for any bill or legislation, I need to not look in the Library of Congress. I need to not look in the National Archive records. I need to not look in the some of the other. That's another one too. I got to come to Congress.gov. You know what I'm saying? If it's a legislation, but this legislation, this piece of paper of legislation, it should be in the Library of Congress. It should be in the National Archive records. It really should. But okay, whatever. Maybe there's a separation or something. I don't know. Mm, mm. But this, as we found, has no information, no language in there mentioning black mulattoes, whatever, 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 and African. It all just says anybody of any race and color. And it talks about it don't matter about your previous slavery conditions. So I'll have to read through this again, read through that whole thing. Not again, but read through that whole thing. But let's go back to this dude and listen to what he says now that we've really done some digging, because he's the one that led us down even further this path on it wasn't that far up on this topic. Man, this is world class research right here, man. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all. World class research. Let's go out this way.
The state wherein they reside, that is, where they live, their home. This word standing alone implies a lawful permanent residence, and it plainly excludes tourists and other lawful visitors, as well as illegal aliens who are prohibited by law from residing in a state, although they all must obey our laws. Second, the history of the clause. The clause was framed by the 39th Congress to constitutionalize the Civil Rights Act of 1866.
Here we go.
Which had been passed by that same Congress just 2 months earlier. The 1866 Act explicitly denied birthright citizenship to persons, quote, subject to any foreign power, close quote, and to, quote, Indians not taxed, close quote. It is clear from the debate in the 39th Congress that Congress decided to replace this language with subject to the jurisdiction thereof, not because Congress suddenly and without any comment decided to broaden the scope of birthright citizenship from the act. Rather, Congress was concerned that the phrase Indians not taxed language generated uncertainty about the citizenship status of the children of Indians, primarily rich and poor Indians.
Listen to that again.
Suddenly and without any comment, decided to broaden the scope of birthright citizenship from the act. Rather, Congress was concerned that the phrase Indians not taxed language generated uncertainty about the citizenship status of the children of Indians, primarily rich and poor Indians. The dispute is best captured, I think, by this comment from Senator Trumbull, who wanted to replace the words Indian not taxed, even though he was the principal author of the 1866 Act. He said this: I am not willing to make citizenship in this country depend on taxation. I am not willing, if the senator from Wisconsin is, that the rich Indian residing in New York shall be a citizen and the poor Indian residing in the state of New York shall not be a citizen. This comment reflects two important points about the intended meaning of the clause by its authors, I think. First, they intended that the children of tribal Indians who resided on reservations and owed their direct allegiance to their tribes would not be entitled to birthright citizenship, but the children of assimilated Indians who had left their reservations and had established permanent residence among the body politic of the states would be entitled to birthright citizenship.
Who is an assimilated Indian? That would be somebody who is in you already know I'm pulling up. Who was in the Dancing Rabbit Treaty? I don't know why I didn't. It's like act like I ain't never typed it in before. Um, who would have been assimilated into the United States, right? As well as other people's treaties who didn't go, because each Choctaw being desirous to remain and become a citizen of the United States was permitted to do so. And it even says in here, you become a citizen of the states. Now, notice this. Notice this. I just realized this. This says a citizen of the states, not a citizen of the United States. It might be a little bit different. But either way, citizen of the states. So, but either way, they got their citizenship. But those people, we do know these people were counted on the census afterwards, as Negro, black, colored, whatever the case may be. That would be an assimilated Indian who is not on the reservation, who now has their allegiance to the United States, as they are now under the jurisdiction of people who have just settled in their land and moved some others away to Oklahoma. Now, those who went to Oklahoma, which would be my people, their allegiance was still under the tribe at the time, so they would have been those Indians that in this bill they're talking about that are not being taxed because their allegiance. Well, that was poor Indians, my bad. But with their allegiance, I'm talking about just the allegiance part. Their allegiance would have still been to the tribes until later on, when Oklahoma became a state, jurisdiction was placed over them, and they too was also subject to it. So let's keep going.
It is not at all plausible that the framers of the Citizenship Clause intended that tribal Indians to be able to evade this limitation on birthright citizenship for their children by the simple expedient of leaving the reservation long enough to give birth to a child. The key distinction between tribal Indians and assimilated Indians was allegiance. Tribal Indians owed their direct allegiance to the tribe, while an Indian who established a permanent domicile within the state and assimilated into the body politic committed his primary allegiance to the United States and thus entitled his children to citizenship at birth. The Supreme Court's 1884 decision in Elk against Wilkins confirmed this understanding essentially, ruling that the clause requires persons to be completely subject to the political here to explore with you.
And I'm gonna have to listen to the rest of that at some point. I forgot that I've accidentally cut it off for whatever reason. I think I got a call or something happened, and I meant to go back and re-record the rest of it. But let's get into this before I see if I can get through some of this. He said because each state run their own little government. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, y'all. You see how it's zooming in? I'm not even trying to do that. Now it's zoomed in on there. Man, I was trying to scroll down on the damn comments. That's how much my shit is tripping right now. Let me make sure it ain't something on my screen that's acting like it's touching my screen. All right, it worked there. All right, let me just leave it alone. If I don't see your message, don't be mad at me. This is one of my old iPhones anyway. Okay. So now that we know all of that, let's kind of go through this. Now we're going through the main basics of the Dred Scott case. A free Negro of the African race whose ancestors were brought to this country as sold as slaves is not a citizen within the meaning of the Constitution of the United States. When the Constitution was adopted, they were not regarded in any of the states as members of the community which constituted the state and were not numbered among its people or citizens. Consequently, the special rights and immunities guaranteed to citizens do not apply to them, and not being citizens within the meaning of the Constitution, they are not entitled to sue in that character in a court of the United States in the circuit court of jurisdiction in such a suit. Now, being that they put this on the books as law, it still kind of is still a law. Like if you admit to being an African, technically you're not supposed to be a citizen of the United States, or a citizen of, a citizen. So as we saw, though, you have the Civil Rights Bill that come out 1866. That's still, it said any, no matter what race or color, but it also didn't say anything about alien and immigrants on that on that Civil Rights Bill. And that was just giving people. I have to go to that whole Civil Rights Bill just to make sure I understand it, because that is kind of new. But okay, let's keep going. The two clauses in the Constitution which point to this race treat them as persons whom it was morally lawfully to deal in as part articles of property and hold as slaves. So that's why I pulled up the Constitution and trying to figure out where did they say that, and we didn't see that nowhere in the Constitution. So it makes you wonder, why would they say that? But okay, since the adoption of the Constitution of the United States, no state can, by any subsequent law, make any foreigner or any other description of persons citizens of the United States, nor entitle them to the rights and privileges secured to the citizens by that instrument. Okay. It says a state, by its laws passed since the adoption of the Constitution, may put a foreigner or any other description of persons upon a footing with its own citizens as to all the rights and privileges enjoyed by them within its dominion and by its laws, but that will not make him a citizen of the United States, nor entitle him to sue in its courts, nor to any of the privileges and immunities of a citizen in another state. So that's why you kind of gotta it's like the word games, because it says a state can make you a citizen of the state and give you all the rights and stuff of a state citizen, but that doesn't make you a United States citizen, which would be different slightly according to this. It says the change in public opinion and feeling in relation to the African race with which has taken place since the adoption of the Constitution cannot change its construction and meaning, and it must be construed and administered now according to its true meaning and intention when it was formed and adopted. The plaintiff, having admitted by his demurrer and the plea of abatement that his ancestors were imported from Africa and sold as slaves, he is not a citizen of the state of Missouri according to the Constitution of the United States and is not entitled to sue in that character in the circuit court. This being the case, the judgment of the court below in favor of the plaintiff on the plea in abatement was erroneous. But so basically they've been saying, hey, because this dude came in, admitted that he was some kind of African, maybe because he just used the term slave in his, because he said that the person threatened to make them slaves and had them enslaved for about 6 hours. Okay, so I don't know if they're using his words against him, saying because you admitted that you were a slave and you're black, so your people sold from Africa. Now this is the longest document that I have about it. Actually, I'm about to just type in Africa and slave and actually see if it's on this page. Besides right here, Africa. It's in this passage 70 something times. Okay, so they was going all in on the word Africa on this. So we're gonna see if in this does he admit it to any other way? Does he at some point in his plea does he say, "Hey, I am an African and I came from here, or my people came from Africa, or whatever"? Or did they just make that up? Are they just conflating his statement of being enslaved, which I read from the original, the actual handwritten transcript, to being an African? So that's why we got to go through this as long as it is. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find out where he admitted at. And you can see this is long as hell. We ain't gonna go through all this today, obviously. Let's see. And then it starts to, I read this earlier, it starts to basically talk about the city difference between citizens cannot sue, slave, erroneous decisions, and how courts have to basically abide by other courts, and if the subject, blah, blah, blah. I read all that. all this or whatever. Basically, it's like, hey, if a writ of error means that we're just basically taking this on as to right the errors that might have been done in your case below. It's not really our case. But we're gonna have to fix your errors, and the error was in jurisdiction, and we're not gonna dismiss the case. We're gonna send the case back down to you to dismiss the case, but we're gonna send a judgment that you strongly follow our opinion on the case. All that shit. I read all that. The facts upon the plaintiff rely upon him giving his freedom and making a citizen of Missouri. The clause in the Constitution authorizing. We want to get to the case. Let's get to the case. The plaintiff himself acquired no title of freedom being taken to the owner of the Rock Island, all that stuff. Let's get to the case. This is where the case starts. As you can see how it starts all this right here. Okay, and it gives a date. All right. It says, and the said John F.A. Sanford, which is the guy that's being sued for assaulting Dred Scott, in his own proper person comes and says that the court ought not to have or take further cognizance of the action aforesaid, because he says that said cause of action and each of and every of them, if any such, have occurred to the Dred Scott, accrued to the Dred Scott out of the jurisdiction of the court and exclusively within the jurisdiction of the courts of the state of Missouri. For that, to wit, the said plaintiff, Dred Scott, is not a citizen of the state of Missouri as alleged in the declaration, because he is a Negro of African descent. His ancestors were pure African blood, and were brought into this country and sold as Negro slaves. And this, the said Sanford, is ready to verify. So the white dude Sanford said this. Okay. Wherefore he prays judgment whether the court can or will take further cognizance of the action foresaid. Sanford put that shit in there. He's the one being sued by Dred Scott. Dred Scott versus John F. Sanford, okay? And it didn't, I don't know why it started with his plea right there instead of Scott's plea, because the original case started with Scott's plea. That's why I don't like this whole typed on the screen shit. Give me the real shit. But okay. But Sanford said that. Okay. And it says, to this plea, there was a demurrer in the usual form, which was argued in April 1854, when the court gave judgment that the demurrer should be sustained. In May 1854, the defendant, Mr. Sanford, in pursuance of an agreement between counsel and with the leave of the court, pleaded in bar of the action, not guilty. He pleaded not guilty. So that shows you he was the one being sued also, right? That the plaintiff was a Negro slave, the lawful property of the defendant, and as such, the defendant gently laid his hands upon him and thereby, now this was in the case that we read, and thereby had only restrained him as the defendant had a right to do. That with respect to the wife and daughters of the plaintiff in the second and third counts of the declaration mentioned, the defendant had as to them only acted in the manner in the virtue of the same right. Now, one thing I just thought about is they put this whole thing about this African blood, which was apparently a particular plea from Sanford, but I don't remember reading a plea, or did I? I may have. Hold on. That said that he was full African blood or some shit. I may have. I may have. Hold on. Maybe not. No, because that's his plea talking about what happened to him. Sanford plaintiff attorney files a demurrer defendant, wherefore the judgment prays. The aforesaid action Sanford sworn in aforesaid court on that day. This day the plaintiff and his attorney files a demurrer. Injury says he is not guilty and of the said supposed trespasses above laid in the charges of any other matter, and that said Dred Scott hath above complained against him, and of this he said he the said Sanford putteth himself upon the country, and for the further plea in the behalf of making the said assault upon the said Dred Scott in the first count of the said declaration mentioned, and imprisoning him and keeping and detaining him in prison, and the said Sanford, by leave of the court first obtained, says that the Dred Scott ought not have or maintain his aforesaid action thereof against him, because he says that before and at the time when at of the said first count that the Dred Scott was a Negro slave, the lawful property of the defendant, and as such a slave, he gently laid his hands upon him and restrained him in the liberty of the right to do so. And this, he says, Sanford is ready to verify. Wherefore the judgment, whether for all the Sanford said action, therefore against him, and the further plea on the behalf of that making the assault against Harriet. No, no. So this is what they're supposed to be mentioning, right? That's what they're supposed to be mentioning here. Let's go back to that. Very to the same with the plaintiff issue filed alleged wrong in the year the plaintiff was a Negro slave, the lawful property, and the final generally had upon the restraint and the final generally do so. Notice not guilty, leave the plate in the notice like it says where he put his hands upon his country. Certain words are missing, is what I'm getting to. That's why I'm not even gonna finish reading this bitch. Now I was gonna read through this whole bitch. But if you're already missing certain key words that are directly from what you're actually supposed to be quoting from, which is the fucking actual document that I had here, or which is handwritten in a government, both are from government source. Well, no, this is from the government source. I take that back. This is not a government source. So I can't, you can't hold them to the truth. I'm reading the truth right here. And as you're writing it on your so-called law shit, it's not keeping the words in its exact verbatim form. So I don't even, man, I'm not about to read the whole thing. Look, I was gonna read because to me, this is that 200 something, 50 some page that they were talking about in the video that they might have read, and it goes through what the justices of the people might have been talking about it. But if I don't find that shit in the goddamn here, look. At this point, I'm completely convinced. If it's not the original document or the original bill from a government source, you're not going to get the direct real information. And at least it's good to know that the government source, the real shit, somewhat still is holds the real shit. But you got to think too, like, yeah, because in real life, y'all got to really do what's right. In a sense, you're supposed to do what's right. What's said about after what was done is just can be propaganda all day. Scott could have, he lost the case due to jurisdiction, but and all the shit after this is just propaganda. The case still has merit because it does kind of throw in this whole thing of did it ever talk about Dred Scott even saying that the only person that said he was a slave was this person. I don't even know if I got to go back through this whole case again and just double check, triple check. It's not that many pages, 41 pages, and not all pages had some shit on there like this, but I just want to triple check to make sure. I don't think I saw African language like that within the case. Possibly I did. Let me just do this. Let's do search African. Let me search African and see if anything searches up on that particular thing. Is this sorted by recently added? This is sorted by recently added. Okay. Right here. Now this was on another page. Hold on. Okay, so it does. Who said it? Who said it? Right here. And the said John A. Sanford, in his own proper person, comes and says to the court, ought not to have taken first. Oh, I missed it. I think I was reading that earlier. It's the same part. Sanford is the one that said this. Because he says the cause of action of each of them is not a search of critical jurisdiction exclusively within the jurisdiction. Blah, blah, blah. He is an Arab Negro. Oh, so actually, that thing I was talking shit about that thing. It might have been right. At least it was Sanford that did bring this in here. But still, when they talked about that whole other part, there was still words missing on the other part because this is a different section. This is that part. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Oh, I went all the way down. I was tripping. I might still read through this, but it's still that's a lot to read. Dude. It's a lot to read without knowing I'm getting the right information. Because I hate to read something all the way through, man, and then you realize, oh man, that wasn't even the original, nigga. I done that with so many books, man. I be trying my best to avoid it. Trying my best. Talk about a waste of fucking time. Now, don't get me wrong, you'll still find shit in there that'll be nuggets and shit, but let me find and tell you. Okay, so this section. It was the Declaration of One Count, cognizance, alpha. So right here, he is in Negro. So this is this section, which I said I was wondering where they got this section from, but now I do see where they got this section from. What I was yelling about was this section, which is they was talking about the plaintiff Negro lawfully he placed his hands upon them or whatever, but they missed certain things like he came upon the country and whatever the case, whatever it was. I said the court gave the judgment to sustain the defendant in pursuance or whatever to leave the counsel for plea not guilty. That the plaintiff was a Negro slave, the lawfully property of the defendant, and such defendant legitimately laid his hand upon him, thereby strongly restraining him, and his defendant had the right to do so. That with respect for his wife and daughters, and to the plaintiff in the second count of the third count's declaration were mentioned, and the defendant had as to do. It's like they almost like they paraphrasing it. So it's like it may not be a bad thing to read because I'm wondering if they do have a conversation between the chief justice or between the justices at the time that I just don't have scripts for. But I would rather see the actual script. But this part was right. This part iffy. So I'm not gonna read through this whole thing with y'all. I was really gonna read through the whole thing with y'all. Well, not the whole thing today, but read through quite a bit of this with y'all. But it could just be a bunch of fluff and bullshit to be honest. And when they got these hyperlink pages that you click on, they're not taking you nowhere. So and it's not a .gov source, so I could really just be going down a rabbit hole. But we did find the act. I will be reading the full act of 1866, which is the Civil Rights Act, and I would be asking people, did you know that's going to be one of my videos when I finally get back to start doing content because I've been lazy. Did you know that there was a Civil Rights Act before 1966 or 1964? Did you know it was almost 100 years before? Did you know that there's certain language in there? And did you know that there was a bill that somebody talked about it, listing all the reclassifications that they will later start to put all of y'all under, and some of y'all are already under. Further as they go west and take over more territory. So that's what I'm gonna be doing, man. I'm probably gonna get off here for now. I might as well make my way up to the studio. Start putting together furniture, which I really don't like to do, to be honest with you. Y'all know you get that furniture in the mail, man. And there's so many goddamn pieces to put together. Oh my God, I'm about to be up here for hours. But it is what it is, man. I probably should pay somebody to do it, but I don't even know who. Somebody will do it. I just don't know how much they're charging it. But anyways, man, I'm about to get off here. I appreciate y'all. Hope y'all have a good Sunday. It's Sunday, yeah. And I might be back on here later on tonight. We'll see.